we'd like to thank the following sponsors.
Well, thank you all so much for being here today. I'm really delighted to bring together such a great group of women executives in construction. We're going to have just a nice roundtable discussion about some of the issues. You all are experts not only in what you do in construction, but also being a woman leader in this field. So I am Katy Devlin. I'm the Associate Publisher and Editor-in-Chief at Glass Magazine. We are part of the National Glass Association. And I'm so excited that the NGA has teamed up with NAWIC, with the National Association of Women in Construction, to bring together our two industries. So what I would like to do now is go around and have everybody introduce themselves and describe your roles in your own words. So Anne, why don't we start with you so you can talk about your new role at NAWIC as well as your experience.
Thank you, Katie. My name is Ann Pfleger, and I actually live in Findlay, Ohio, which is just south of Toledo. I was installed in August as the NAWIC president. I'll serve till next August. I've been in construction for about 15 years. I work for a general contractor, mainly in the estimating department, but I also do safety, IT, and HR. Being a NAWIC member has provided me the opportunity to step into this leadership role and become national president. Without this association, I would have never had this opportunity. And also to be able to meet the amazing women in our industry that are, helping us lead the way.
Wonderful. Thank you, Anne. And I will just go around the circle as you appear in my screen. So, Nataline.
Hi, thank you so much for having us. It's great to collaborate and lovely to see so many women here on the panel. I'm Nataline Mitchell, and I'm a project manager and also responsible for business development for a mid-size commercial firm, general contractor in the San Francisco Bay Area. We primarily concentrate on multifamily affordable housing, but we do all kinds of projects, seismic, historic, rehabs, etc. So always excited to be here and talk about NAWIC as well. I'm the incoming vice president and have been a NAWIC member for about 12 years. Great advocate for women in the construction industry, and just, again, happy to be here. Thanks for having us.
And Diana.
Hi, I am Diana San Diego. I'm the Vice President of Marketing for Safety First. I've been with Safety First for 14 years, and Safety First is a manufacturer of fire-rated glass and framing systems, and we manufacture our products here in California, and we supply all over the United States, Canada, even in the Middle East. And it is, like everybody's saying, it's so great that we're having this forum about women in construction. So I'm happy to be part of this group.
Thanks so much. Doreen.
I wasn't sure my circle's different than Doreen Bartoldes. I am a professional engineer and a construction manager. I work for Jacobs, and my role with them is a construction management group leader in their wastewater. I work in New York City. I've overseen a lot of large infrastructure projects for the New York City DEP, the Environmental Protection. So that's water and wastewater plants. And I've been in the industry about 40 years doing design and construction. I will follow Anne next year. I'm president-elect this year with NAWIC, and I will be president next year when Anne has amazingly transformed our organization. So next August, so I'm president-elect. I've been with NAWIC about 16 years, and yes, always love having conversation with other smart women. So thank you for having me.
Terrific. Nataline?
Hello. So I have been in the industry for 31 years. I turned 50 this year. So I got in the industry by accident. It was just the first job I got was in the construction industry, and I fell in love with it, and I've been in it since. I am currently the CEO and president of Giroux Glass, which means that I have 270 supervisors, and my job is to just bring out the best in all of them. So I have worked in the backgrounds of general contractors, home builders, and other types of specialty subcontractors, and also ran my own side business, helping small to medium-sized construction companies grow. But I've been here at Giroux for, it'll be 20 years on November 19th, but who's counting? And we have 6 offices in California, Nevada, and Arizona. And I'm very happy to be here. Thank you.
Terrific. So I think I'd like to get started just with the state of women in construction. And Anne, I wonder, since in your role at NAWIC, if you might want to tackle that first. What is the state of the industry?
Actually, we're in a great time. We're over 10% of women in the industry now, which is amazing. We were at 9% quite a long time, but we're now over 10%. But even more importantly, yes, construction is still a male-populated industry. We don't want to say male-dominated anymore because more women are having seats at the table, whether it be in the field with boots on the ground or making decisions for the construction industry. So I think that is huge for women in the industry that, we've moved percentage-wise a little bit, but we're making more of an impact. And I think that overall the construction industry is now seeing how much women are a benefit and can help move forward the industry.
And one thing that stuck out to me, I was sort of looking through some of NAWIC's materials, was that the wage equity is so much closer in construction compared to another field. Would someone like to pose to offer any comments on that?
I can, I think. Well, trades are still struggling to get there, but I know as I continued in construction rather than in design, I was definitely making more money. And as I moved up, the transparency was better, so I could speak up more for myself. So at construction, you definitely do make more money than you would, say, in a traditional engineering or, as long as you're moving along. So I think that's part of it. Construction does pay better generally. So, unions on the engineering, construction management side, there is more of a demand for people in general because there is a shortage of people doing construction specifically. So I think that's part of it.
This is another great point that I think showing how much more impact women have in the industry, because we have actually moved up to, we're right around 99%. So we even moved up from the low 90s. I think that is really another great sign that people are understanding that women can be very impactful in the industry.
If I could, Katie, also, I'd like to offer that I believe part of this is attributable to the fact that there are so many women going through the construction management programs in different colleges. And when you end up with an opportunity to both intern and then potentially be offered positions, it's a lot more difficult to sort of offer a reason why you're not showing pay parity when you're hiring new project engineers or assistant project managers or whatever the starting level is. And additionally, just between #MeToo and other movements that have brought to the forefront the disparities in our society, it's made it much easier for people who are interested in really trying to address those issues to level that playing field and make it easier.
I'd like to bring this question to Nataline and Diana as well, looking at glass industry specifically. And we don't have necessarily the same in-depth statistics for women in glass, which is something that I would be excited about looking into further. But just anecdotally, from your perspectives, are you seeing more women in the field, in the factories, in leadership roles?
Well, I wish we saw more in the field. We do have a few, but in the office, we have a lot of women. More than 50, maybe 60% of our management team and our leaders are female. And we have project management, project coordinators, project engineers. So, we do try. We don't specifically say we're going to hire women, but we do really press for all of our hiring managers to hire different people with different backgrounds, perspective, diversity. And so with that comes women. So, and in the field, I wish we could, we're a union company and, I wish we had more of a way to entice more women to come into the glazing industry.
And Diana, what about you? Yeah.
Yeah, I would say in definitely in our organization in the office, our leadership team, like 50%, like half of it is women. Like we're a smaller firm, and in our office, like we've had project managers that are women, salespeople that are women, staff that are women, and I think part of it too is as we have more women move into leadership roles. I think it paves the way that if you have women who are in the position to hire and make decisions, it's more likely that, it opens the door for more women to just apply for the job, just to see that, it could happen for them. So I think there's something to be said for the people who came before us. Certainly for me, that, seeing that other people can do it makes me think that I can do it myself. So I think just keeping that door open and just like encouraging people to apply and, being a mentor and such would be very helpful in attracting and keeping women working in the glass industry.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this transitions perfectly to the idea of recruitment. For the better part of a decade, we've talked about a skilled labor shortage. And so I think we have a need to recruit more and a more diverse workforce. And at least in the glass industry, we've struggled to make big strides in that way. So yeah, I'd like to talk about recruitment a little bit. How can companies recruit a more diverse workforce, both with women of color, and people of color?
If you don't mind, I'll start that off, mainly because Jacobs is, obviously with recent events and stuff, they are looking to diversify beyond women to women of color and men and women of color. So they have asked everybody for ideas. And I was, about 15 years ago, I got into the position where I hire people. I do still now. And one of the things I told them to look at was, maybe we should get resumes without names on top, like anonymous resumes. So that's one idea. The other is to, women's resumes are a lot weaker than men's. Men are very, they speak about themselves. They'll go on and on and on about stuff. Not all of them, but I'm saying they're much more at ease telling you what they've done. And so women's resumes are usually you kind of have to read it between the lines, and you have to kind of pull it out of them. So I always, when I was first in position of hiring and we were looking to diversify and add women to a company that I was at, I actually pulled these women in, and we did hire more women because we actually got them in for an interview, and they did so much better at an interview than their resume actually looked like. And then just another anecdote to that is when I started going up in the ranks a little bit, a marketing woman pulled me aside and said, you need to work on your resume. And I'm like, what do you mean I need to work on my resume? She said, look at this, guys. And we went to lunch. She showed me this other person's guy's resume, and it was just, chock full. She goes, now we got to work on yours. And mine was like, I had like a mini paragraph for each project I worked on. So there's that. People have to open up to the fact that when somebody's writing their own resume, they're not knowing who's going to be viewing it. So, that's one of the things we have to open our vision.
I also encourage them to network. When I was early on in the industry, I didn't network. I was just the one that stayed till 2 a.m. working really hard. I didn't until much later. And I think, oh my gosh, what a beautiful thing to be able to network and hear from other women and men about ideas of who do I need to meet, who should I get to know, and so forth. And there's so much to be offered by networking and sponsoring. And, once you hire women, to make sure you continually check in with them, right? So that you don't hear, if you hear them say, well, I think it's because I'm a woman they're not listening to, or I'm afraid to because I'm so different than that person, and just encourage them. What's the worst that can happen? Someone says no, you don't want to regret and think, well, what if I would have asked? But I think it's important that we do our part in check in with each other. Even, I still call many people I worked with years ago to check in with them and, make sure, are you asking for what you want? Are you checking in? Are you networking again? So I think networking is an incredible way to encourage other women and help them with introductions to who the right people are they should be meeting.
Okay, that's the perfect segue into the 2-minute NAWIC plug, because that's what we're all about. And that is the beauty of our association. So all of you will be receiving invitations to join us. But right now, I'm just going to say we have over 5,000 members. And that is one of the best things that I can ever say I did, which is pick up the phone when I have a question and feel squeamish about asking my team the question. Find another NAWIC woman who's either in a position that's similar or that has some information or knowledge about what I need, and asking them, hey, can you just tell me, have you run into this? What happened? How did you treat it? What did you do? I have never been turned down for information from another NAWIC lady. And it's been instrumental in providing me guidance and just information about my own field and what I need to do to propel myself forward.
So a lot of this conversation about recruitment has been, really thinking about how, we can uplift one another and as women in the field, begin to try to, lean in and take on these roles that, that we are certainly more than capable of doing. But I'm thinking about, in the glass industry, we've got a lot of companies that are, where I think the ownership and leadership would like to bring on a more diverse workforce, but just really doesn't even know how. And they might have a staff, a leadership that is all men at this point. So what might you tell an owner or a hiring manager at one of these firms who does really want to make an effort to diversify their workforce?
Call us.
What was that?
To call us. Well, people, I've heard several times, well, you had a chance because the former CEO was a woman. And I surprise them because I say, actually, she did not want to hire me because I was partially because I was a woman. She thought, oh gosh, I'm going to throw her in there with all those men. And she had me interview with 5 men. And I thought, wow, this company really scrutinizes their new hires. And then I found out, no, it was just me. She usually only had one interview, but she was trying to find someone that agreed with her. And so, when I tell them that, they say, oh, well, then how did you do it? But, there are a lot of men that want to, like you said, and maybe don't know how to, but even just recruiting a couple women, even if they're not in higher management roles, to talk with them and get them engaged. And, and then that's a double whammy. They see them, a CEO or president working with, an administrative assistant. And they not only get, well, he's taking the time to talk to this woman, but he's also taking his time to work from within the company to find out how to do it and bring people together.
Yeah, I would encourage owners to reach out to like NAWIC and other associations that are women based. We can give them a lot of information to attract the women, because we all know that men, if they have the majority of the position down, they'll apply for it. But women, it has to be 100%. So while we're encouraging, from the NAWIC side, for women to step out of their comfort zone, and do whatever they want to do, if men are coming to those women and saying, hey, would you apply for this position? That might be an encouragement for them, because they're making the extra effort.
Mm-hmm. As well, what gets measured, what gets measured gets managed. And if you're interested in truly changing either the culture or the goals, the hiring practices at your firm, you really have to take a moment and be honest about what it is you've done in the past historically and where you want to go, and then talk about the steps to get there, because you're not going to be able to continue to do the same thing you've done always. You're going to have to change it up. And so being willing to address that and admit it and take a look at it deeply is the way to move that needle.
Yeah, and like I said before, they need to expand how they look at resumes and things like that. They just need to poll more people. they just have to broaden their net, I guess I would say. They kind of, sometimes, if we're looking for, and even lately with resident engineers and stuff, it's like, who do you know out there? Like, well, let's put a, let's put a requisition out there and let's see who applies. And there are people I know, but a lot of this hiring happens because people know people, which is good in one way, but bad in another, because they're hiring somebody who looks just like them. And it's still the same old. So they really just have to cast a wider net and get the best possible person for the job. And a lot of times that's a woman like us for that job.
Also, companies need to encourage the women that they do have to join organizations like NAWIC.
Yes.
So our marketing director came from a different industry, and early on she realized the benefit of getting involved. And she's currently the president of NAWIC here in Los Angeles. And so I think that's a big part. I remember she called me and said, what do you think? Should I make the commitment? I said, yeah, absolutely. Right. You're going to have a lot, but I think that every company needs to make that decision and all do our part.
Mm-hmm. Right. And I think, speaking to, you have to cast your a wider net when you are hiring. I know that, sometimes when you have to hire for a position, you just want to get through it right away, but you really do have to take the time and you look at the resumes and interview as many people as you can, because you just never know from a resume how the person is going to come to you. And if you take the time to go through the interviews, and it doesn't even stop there, you have to invest in the person that you eventually hire and train. And if they see that this is a company that invests in people, it would encourage more people to come and apply for the next time.
Anything else on recruitment?
Just do it. Just hire a more diverse team. It really makes a difference. So, there's the business case that's been out there for quite a while, that diversifying your workforce is good for the bottom line. And then anecdotally on projects that I worked on, the biggest project I worked on was like a $1.2 billion project for New York City. And I was leading it, and we had the very diverse workforce. And I mean, culturally, gender, everything. And that project came in on time. We had really great morale. We shared a lot of cultural differences. We would have really wonderful, what do they call the potlucks? We would do potluck at Thanksgiving, and we had food from everywhere. It was really delicious. So it just made for just a better atmosphere and more ideas, more diverse attitudes and things. Contractors were a little more in check because there were women around, I guess. I don't know. Everybody was just more focused and happy to be there. So that anecdotally was one of the best jobs New York City DEP ever got delivered to them. So, and that was the most diverse I ever worked on. So there's my 2 cents.
Doreen mentioned something about, the statistics, right? What if women in front of their cover letter and resume put those statistics, open the doors, right? I mean, it's just not just women, but diversity, but part of that are women. I remember years ago, there was an article in a newspaper, and it talked about the statistics. Gosh, this must have been, maybe 12 years ago. And I remember I went to the copy machine and I made 40 copies, and I put in everybody's inbox about women and the benefit that comes with it, and stop hiring people that look like us and act like us and think like us. We already know ourselves. Want to know what other people are thinking. Mm-hmm. The funny thing is maybe 1 or 2 people brought up that article in their inbox. But I'll tell you, from when I started at Giroux and now, I think we're 73% diversified, whether, men, women of color, women throughout Giroux, including our field and our offices.
Yeah, and if I could piggyback on, Diana had a great comment too. It is about recruitment, but it's also about retention. Because once you get the folks there, you can't forget that they are different. And so, again, their opinion needs to be valued and heard, just like everyone else's. And there has to be a culture of respect. And so that has to, again, come from the top. be examined and look at the ways that those are attributed or how those are encouraged, and just, continue to grow your business that way.
Yes, years ago, I had a woman who, she was about my age, and which I won't give away what that is, but it's older than the rest of you. So she was about my age, and we were talking about, talking to women about joining, being women in construction. And she was a woman in construction. She said, Doreen, how do I promote women to come into a industry where I've been given such a hard time? She goes, you and I just toughed it out. And I said, true, but we need more women, and so we don't have to tough it out anymore. So that support is, hopefully it's come along the way, and hopefully it will continue. So it is a very good point.
Have you all felt that you've had to tough it out?
Yeah, I did. I started construction in 70. See, now you'll just do the math. 1978 or so. So I just started working as a draftsperson, and I also worked for a contractor. I was a surveyor. I tried to be a project engineer out in the field. I was going to school at night, so I worked for contractors first and a general contractor, and they it was just really tough. Any door, I would find one or two people who would be like my advocate or mentor, but mostly, they still had calendars on the walls in the trailer. All that stuff was going on, and I just kind of, this is what I want to do. I'm just going to do it. They just can't stop me from doing what I want to do. So that was it. So yes, I had to tough it out for a while.
Just in case we weren't all on screen when I asked that question, all heads nodded yes. Toughing it out. Does anyone else have anything to add on, kind of recruitment and retention in this in the business?
I think the retention part, like as mentioned, is just as or more important than the recruitment. Once you get them in, I think you need to remind them, not let them fall in the trap. I just can't. I'm a woman. I'm being treated that way because I'm a woman, and get them out of that and focus on just people will notice your actions and what you're accomplishing, and it'll be good for for everyone around you. And so it's just checking in and reminding them and helping to retain them by making them feel valuable and really focusing on, we need you because this is what you're going to bring and what you can get out in return. But it, it's human nature that it feels really good to give, right? My sons are Boy Scouts. They do a lot of volunteer work. And sometimes, my family will say, gosh, you do so much volunteer. Do you even have time for that? I said, oh no, I'm not that giving. What it is it feels so good to give to others, right? And so it's just reminding them just give and take what you can learn and stay, and you grow together. But again, the retention and the checking in and making sure that people grow and have the opportunity to grow is important. At Giroux, when we hire our non-union people that are in the office or project managers, anyone who's non-union, we assign them a buddy. They have a buddy system, somebody that is outside, not their supervisor, not a peer in their department, to make sure that you check in with them and that they're heard, what their future goals are on a regular basis. So yes, retention. It's very important.
Yeah, the other part of that too is sometimes company culture can be a lot. So, like with these contractors that I worked with in the past, they all golfed on the weekends, so I told myself as soon as I can, I'm going to learn how to golf. I had young kids at the time, so I couldn't do it then, but I did eventually learn how to golf so I can get out there. And so there's, going have beers, going to the cigar bar or something, things that women don't normally do. They kind of, the social, cultural, whatever the company is doing as their yearly summer picnic is a golf outing, and most of the women don't golf. So that kind of leaves them out. So that's something to think about also in retention.
Yeah, or also making sure that companies, have activities that everyone will be involved in. I remember my first construction job told me you got to learn to golf. I tried it. They even paid for my lessons. I said, I have no patience for this. I never went to golf. And I go back in the days with the calendars, and they had other things that they did. Nope, I'll go to eat. I did. And I think it's also important to stay true to your values, right? Mm-hmm. But also as companies make sure, because another one is fishing, right? Like going on fishing trips. Not everyone wants to go fishing. So they have a variety of events to get people involved.
Right.
Know that for our chapter, that's one of our big events to get women out and golfing. We do a lesson with a pro and then play 3 holes in the evening. Again, just to get women comfortable with the rules and understanding how it works on the golf course. So it's not the first time you go out with a bunch of guys and you hear different things. And this way you build the confidence that you need to at least just walk out there and know that you understand what's going on. Again, the beauty of NAWIC in the sense of support for the sisterhood and helping each other understand different facets of our industry, because that is deeply embedded in sort of that male tradition and typical male roles and what their expectations are of anybody that walks in the office, essentially.
Absolutely. Yeah, I know our organization, the NGA, it merged with the GANA a few years ago, and they added a 5K walk run. Unfortunately, it kicks off at 6:30 in the morning, but it does give you an alternative. Things like adding a wine tasting or just something a little different. Well, I'd like to move, Diana. You had sort of mentioned that this is such an important time for us to be having the conversation amid the pandemic and just what that has meant for women in a lot of different. We have seen so many stats coming out that women who have already traditionally been working kind of a second shift at home, carrying so much of that load, they are being tasked with so very much more with, education and all of these things. And we're seeing already in the stats that a lot of women are leaving the workforce. So you have that on one side, but, you also, on the other hand, have companies moving to a flex time in a way that they never have before, which is, something we've talked about for a long time, that can make the workforce much more amenable to many, many women. So I wonder if, Diana, I'll since you and I had chatted about this before, if you want to kind of kick us off on some of your thoughts.
Yeah, so like we went through this in our own organization, because when the shutdown of the pandemic happened, I don't know how it happened for everybody, but for us it was sudden. We were here on a Monday, then Tuesday we weren't here. Mm-hmm. So all of a sudden everybody had to work remotely, and it was so disruptive and jarring. So when we talk about having to check in with everybody, that was an important time to check in with everybody and just not with their work, but with just how they're feeling in general, because everybody was feeling just overwhelmed. They were feeling this sense of uncertainty. And then as things start to normalize, like we're trying to figure this out, like how we're going to be able to figure out this new world of work and working remotely, what the tools that we need to provide everybody so they feel like they can still be effective in their job, and the considerations that we need to make with people who have families. And so those are the things that we were working with. And as we're finding out that, that working remotely is something that it's always been available to us, but it was never available in this type of scale where all of a sudden everybody who worked in the office had to work from home. Mm-hmm. So now it's creating this opportunity where you can have flex schedules, where maybe some days you can come in the office and some days you don't have to. And it's creating all these other avenues and opportunities for women who have childcare responsibilities. And now they're also homeschooling, that there is some flexibility that could be afforded to them, because what we're finding out is a lot of the people who work for a company, they get a lot of fulfillment from their work. So they don't want their work to suffer, and they also don't want their family life to suffer. So how can we help them through this transition where they feel like they can have that, that space where we can support them in that realm, whether it's, do you want to adjust your hours? Do you want to, maybe some days you bring your child to work with you so that you can help with the homeschooling. So those are the things that I think as companies try to navigate this whole new world of work. And I think it's going to go on for like at least a couple of months to even a year. And I think giving that kind of support to employees, not just women, but certainly, you know, everybody, it just helps with, well, not just retention, but also helping your employees succeed in this uncertain times, which helps your company succeed overall.
Mm-hmm.
I think the pandemic actually forced us to do this, because we've had this conversation many times with companies to allow for maternity leave, and you know, both for men and women, not just for men, but allowing for those parents to be able to have different shifts so they can take care of their children. And I think that many were not sure how it was going to work, but because we were forced to do it, they can now see that, yes, it can be done. And I actually think that not only are we going to be having happier employees, but I think they're going to be more productive, because they're able to take care of their families by the time. I have to say, all those parents that have kids and have to teach them, God bless you. Fortunately, my son is 24, so I didn't have to worry about that. He at one time asked me if I would homeschool him, and I said, I am not. That's not my wheelhouse. But I think it's gonna make for happier and more productive employees by allowing us to have that flex time, or you know, work from home a couple days a week and then maybe a couple days. That way you can coordinate with your significant other or spouse, and you can have a parent with your children. That's another big thing where both parents always working all the time. A lot of the children aren't getting that time with their parents, which I think is very important. You know, as the children are growing up, to have that interaction with their parents. I know that when I was growing up, we had dinner at the table every single night. So it was. I think that we're missing some of that, and I think by us now having the availability to work from home and have that flexible schedule, that you know, families can actually interact more because they're not rushed around so much.
You know, there's so many interesting dynamics right now. I mean, when it first happened, yes, there was a lot of stress, and actually, you know, and I can kind of, I have a woman who works with me. She's a 1 year out of school person. She, you know, she was an intern with us, and she just started, and she kind of, you know, at like 6 months in, she kind of packed up and she's working from home. And then I have another woman she's about 40. She's got 4 kids, and she's just going nuts. So, and then I'm fine. I'm like Ann, my kids are all older, and I'm just about an empty nester, although the college student came home and graduated virtually and things. But I can hear the stress in the women and it's unfortunate that I don't hear that their husbands are helping them. And I'm just, you know, there's probably plenty of guys out there doing their thing, but it just sounds like, and it might even with the help, even, you know, sometimes you're hearing interviews and stuff, even with all the help and support, trying to manage like 2 or 3 kids, different schools, different programs and things. So I think that part of it has made it harder for women. I think on the other side of it, yes, even with NAWIC and the virtual, I'm sitting there going, wait a minute, we can, and this particular panel will probably reach a lot more women or a lot more men, hopefully, with this kind of Zoom, and, you know, so hopefully we can take more advantage of it in the future for sure. And I think this has opened, like Ann said, it opened up a lot of eyes to what we can do. But I do see there's that additional stress on the women for sure right now. And and that's a concern.
But when this all started, we had our list of the single parents, the women, the caregivers. And I'll tell you, most of them were the ones saying, please don't make me work at home. But now, I mean, they're really transitioning it. But, you know, if people don't feel like they have peace in their home or in their personal lives, they're not going to be very productive anyhow. So I don't know if that's not incentive enough for companies to offer flexibility. I don't know what is. Mm-hmm. You know, and also the extra burden on women. My husband's retired. He retired after being in law enforcement for almost 33 years. And even though he's there, and his number one priority has always been, you know, his family, I still have that part of me where I want to have that motherly role, the wife. I want to take care of my family. So no matter how much I'm told that I have the support, I still want to do that. I think women, we carry that. I remember reading an article years ago that said that women, even though that both parents are able to help, that women still do 40% more of the housework than the men. But I think a large majority of that is because we're hard on ourselves. We think we need to be on top of everything all of the time. And when our emotions come in with our children, we want to be there. So, as of now, we're in downtown Los Angeles, or even our other offices that they're a little more lax. We still offer that flexibility because it's about having that balance where people are at peace, keep their stress levels down, and give them that ability to be the parents that they want to be and be productive for the company.
Mm-hmm. I'd like to look at this also as an opportunity. As stressful as a lot of things that have been going on societally have been for all of us, for us in the industry, in the construction industry, we've been extremely fortunate in terms of at least still having work and being able to maintain our jobs. So I'd like to look at it that way first. And then as women, I feel like we are really good jugglers. So here's another opportunity for us to step up our game and also to push back at home and at the office when you feel like you're being assigned more than is fair or equitable, or if you have rationale or reasoning for why you should be doing something differently, this is a time to offer it. And I think that now is a time that it will actually be heard probably a little bit better than it might have been at other times. So this is a great opportunity for us to grab our market share, do the best we can with it, and again, prove our juggling skills, which I know we have. So I think it's a great time for us, as tough as it may be. I think this is a good opportunity, and it may allow us to shine even more.
So that actually transitions really wonderfully. I think, Nataline, you had sent in a few ideas of topics to chat through, and one was resiliency, and thinking about, we are looking at a pretty uncertain time. The construction forecasts are a little bit daunting for the next few years, and you all are leaders at your companies and in the industry at large, and in your own lives. We're all just juggling a lot. So, Nataline, why don't I start with you, since you would put that down as something to talk through. What are some things that we can do as women leaders in this industry to be resilient and to continue to reach those long-term goals despite these hurdles?
Well, I think that is probably the most fortune that will come out of this, is that everybody going through this can look back and say, well, I made it through, and be resilient, right? We have that choice. And when it gets hard, we say it's not going to last forever. But when we get out, we'll say, look I never knew I was that strong. I never knew I can do it. Well, now you know, right? And to remind each other of that. And also just the support system through it. Every Sunday, as soon as this started, I started sending out a Sunday letter to all of the employees. And I'm still doing it. And I now made the commitment that I'm going to keep doing it, because not only through this time is checking, and I end every letter with my personal cell phone, and I say, remember, you can reach out to me 24/7, right? Because you have the people that may not come to you, that you have to go through, but just to check in and know everybody's going through something different, but to focus on the importance of being resilient, right? And we're all doing it in our own ways, maybe some in bigger ways than others. I mean, we have single parents that have 2-3 kids at home, homeschooling. We have elderly parents that are being cared for. Those are big things. And not being able to see your parent during this time, that may be in a home. And then we expect them to come in and do their job. They have to be heard and know that, just that feeling of not knowing you're alone, whether it's something you can touch or it's virtually, it all comes down to how you feel, right? And if you feel you're not alone, then it helps us all be more resilient, adaptable, and just believe that, yes, this will pass and we'll all get out of it and we'll be stronger.
I want to get on the list of Nataline's Sunday letters. I need her inspiration. For me, actually, I'm looking at, and I always have, I mean, it's always been that way. The 2008 recession, construction usually sees things later, right? Especially when you work for municipal, because we're budgeted so much capital, and then things start to fall later because there's no income, there's no revenue from tax sources and things like that. And that's kind of where I'm seeing us going now. Is I just see kind of a cliff out there, and I'm trying I'm trying to get there really slow, or have them build a bridge or something. So I do business development too, writing proposals and things like that. And for me, it's really just being honest with my employees. I have about 13 or 14 people who work for me directly, and when their jobs are over, they need another job to go to. So that's what weighs on me. So we're doing our best to collaborate. I'm always honest with them what I know is coming, what's not coming, so that if they need to, they have to look elsewhere. Yes. So that's some of the resilience. I'm just looking that far ahead. I'm looking a year ahead to make sure I have projects on board to put people to work. On a personal level, I'm at the point where, I'm okay. I wasn't always. So I would advise people to think about this and think about what it is they needed in this pandemic, and make sure they're ready for the next thing that could happen. We're going to have another recession. I've been through like 4 as it goes. That one time I was on unemployment. I was lucky or fortunate, or I worked hard enough to get my degree, and in my position as a seller doer, now I'm one of the last people to go. So, and that's been fortunate. I did my 401k, I did all that stuff. You just do the right thing to make your own personal life resilient as well. So that's another thing to think about also.
The precipice is calling. It's our industry. It's very cyclical. And I think if you've spent any time in there, you start to see those patterns and understand how they develop and what happens. And again, I was fortunate enough to write out the 08, 09, 10 last recession. And I do feel like clearly our industry will self-correct and adjust as the rest of society does. And the projects are going to, do that wave of coming and going. And you have to, I don't think of it so much as being resilient as persistent. You have to remain persistent. You can't let your dreams go. If this is what you love and you want to do it, you have to just work harder and keep digging and keep going until you get to where you want to be. And it's much more about persistence. Resiliency is a lovely thing. Hopefully it'll pop back up. But if it doesn't, you have to reshape yourself into the vision that you have for yourself or that you want to be. And so that's what I would just encourage people to dig deep and really think about. What is it you want? And then what's the best way to achieve that, or how can you possibly achieve it with the current surrounding environments? And, I look forward to better years in construction and hopefully continuing to do things in a way that's beneficial to all of us here.
Yeah, but with that, this cyclical movement in construction is even more reason to bring the diversity, the women in, because you can't keep doing the same thing that you do, knowing what you know. You got to bring different minds in so that you can shift and be prepared.
The thing that I found interesting with this current situation versus the last recession, 2009, that affected the entire country. The same. It was like we felt it all across the country. And it's not that we don't feel the pandemic all across the country, but it's affecting the country differently depending on where you are. It wasn't until actually I was at my chapter meeting last night and I heard that one of our members who's an architect was let go. That was the first sign in my area in Ohio that was like, when they start letting architects go, then you know it's going to come down the line. So I think that's what's a little bit different about this. And being there, as a NAWIC member, being there for those women that are in those areas that are struggling. I had a member email me this morning because I've offered to any member to send an employer support letter because we're in a tough time. And we appreciate how our companies have been supported. And she was actually laid off and she found another job. And she said it was actually the job that I've always wanted. And I think that's fabulous that something like this that, has been a real struggle to turn into her dream job. So just as Waleed said, sometimes that persistence, even though she was laid off, she was still persistent and was trying to stay in the industry, and she has now had her dream job. So I think that is one of the things that we have to keep in mind, that yes, everybody is affected differently, but if we're here to support one another and help in it, whatever way we can, I think that we're going to be stronger women in our industry.
So just another thing on the topic of resiliency, I think this is also a time when, when you're in a position or a leadership or a management position in your own company, you're always thinking about how to care for the people that you are leading. That I think this is also a time where you need to think about your own health and your own situation. You need to be kinder to yourself, because I know in my own situation, when this first happened, I was so stressed out because I wanted to, if I'm freaking out, how can I assure people to not freak out? So just taking the time to, do some like what they call self-care, whether it's, what do you like to do? Do you like to meditate? Do you like to go on a hike? Do you want to go for a walk? And just to clear your mind, because if you're relaxed and if you're more calm, then you can calm people around you. So I think that's something that that's part of being resilient through uncertain times like this. If you take care of yourself, then you're in a better position to take care of everybody around you.
Perfect. I wish we could keep talking forever. This has been such a delight. Thank you all so much. This was such a terrific conversation.
Yeah,
Thank you. All right. Well, we've had some great activity going through the chat. Thank you all who have posted some questions, and don't hesitate to add to that list. Doreen, I know that you have to get out at 3:30, so I'd like to pose a question for you first. But this is the last session of the day, so we can keep chatting as long as you all are available. So I'd like to start with a question one of the first questions that came in. How can men in construction best be better advocates and allies for women in construction, and particularly men who aren't in charge of hiring?
Yes, that was a great question. And I think it was Andrew. Thank you for the question. I'm so glad the men are here asking those questions. You heard us talk a little bit about the culture and making sure social activities, that's one thing. And I want to kind of also bring it way to the other side of this. Vicki O'Leary is a iron worker, and she put together a program. If you go to last year's ENR Person of the Year, it was Vicki O'Leary, and she put together a program called Be That Guy. So if you're out in the field, being that guy who supports the woman, the women get harassed out there. So if you're one of those guys that just doesn't, participate, or don't be complicit, be that guy who says, hey guys, cut it out, and be that person there for that person. And then, in the office, it's just about supporting, the same thing. Just be that guy who is like supportive. You can be a gentleman, you can be chivalrous. We're okay with that. We're really okay with that. So it's just being there. You can be an advocate, you could be a mentor, you can be a teacher. I think there was another question in there. Somebody was asking about, what if I don't know how to do something? I mean, women are afraid to speak up and ask because they don't want to look dumb. So be that other guy too that also asks, can I help you with something? Can I teach you something? Can I just be a friend and a mentor? And I think that's going to go a really long way for someone, for sure.
Does anyone else want to build on that?
Last week, I attended the Indianapolis chapter installation. We had some men in the audience, and I actually talked on leadership and then opened it up for questions. And one of the gentlemen asked, what can we do to be more supportive? And I said, well, you're the owner of the company. I said, maybe every month go around and sit down for 5-10 minutes with your cup of coffee and just talk to her. Ask her, how things are going. Maybe does she have any ideas? But if she sees that you're interested in what she's doing and her ideas, then in the future she may come to you, and it may be a fabulous idea just by having that 5-10 minute initial conversation.
Self-reflection, awareness. Sorry, Katie. I just was
Oh,
going
no,
to
no,
toss
please,
that
yeah.
out because I think that that's also a key component in this. We've all sat around the table and had people ignore the conversations that we've been having or the comments we've made because it's coming from a woman. If you hear that happening, you need to speak up and say, oh, that sounds just like what, Doreen mentioned a moment ago. Are we going back to that idea? Or, in subtle ways, you don't have to be obnoxious about it. It's very difficult, though, sometimes for other women to be able to do that. It comes stronger, it comes across better sometimes from men, and we value allies. They're just as welcome as anybody else who's respectful in that climate.
Yeah, I think just listen. And I think if you are somebody who's, like really actively seeking diversity of thought and diversity of ideas, and not just women, but everybody or anybody who thinks different the way that you do, I think that would just help you in general in formulating ideas or formulating decisions or just making decisions based on more collaboration or different perspectives. I think seeking someone else's ideas would only help you.
So we had a couple of questions in the chat that looked at sort of pushback. If you, let's see, one of them was, what is the response maybe in terms of hiring or promotion where you have a man say like you're taking jobs away from the men, or maybe pushback on a specific project. You've got folks out in the field. How do you navigate, or how do you recommend women navigate those situations?
Well, I did answer that person. I typed back that did happen out in the field to me, but that was like back in the 80s. So I'm kind of hoping that's gone away. But I guess it's still happening, and I'm sorry to hear that. It's the right person's doing the right job. I would just say, listen, I was hired just like the other person, the other guy, because I'm here and that person's not, I can't help that. I mean, that's the tough answer. I mean, there's probably a better diplomatic answer I'm sure one of these other wonderful women could give to you. But really, it's no longer about, it used to be culturally that men were leading the household and paying for things. And actually at the time I heard that, I was a single mom, so I was kind of very insulted by that. I'm like, there's lots of different kinds of families out there. There's lots of different, and there's actually 2-income households because they have to be 2-income households. So nobody's taking a job away from anyone. And then my just third point, and then I'll go off to my other meeting, and thank you for letting me answer first, is that, and I lost the thought. Well, I'll leave it to you guys to answer. I lost that thought. I'm sorry about that. But Katie and everyone, this has been wonderful. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks so much, Doreen.
Thanks.
Thank
Bye.
you.
So any other thoughts from you all on that?
If I could pick that up, statistically speaking, when you look at this, let's flip that paradigm. First of all, why is it a comparison that it's being taken away from any one gender? If we look at us as a whole, societally, whether it's male or female, right now the men have much more capacity and have many more jobs than women do. So if we flip that paradigm, aren't you actually taking the job away from a woman who should equitably be receiving that job? So again, there's multiple ways that you can look at this, but like Doreen said, I agree, it should be the best person for the job. But at the same time, if all of your staff or 90% of your staff is male, I would question you to push back, gently, in an effective way, in the sense of trying to appeal to people's curiosity or their sense of equity in that way, and just describing the situation from another perspective and asking them to hear you and to really listen and value what it is that you're saying. Because for somebody that perceives it as it belongs to a man, right there is a bit challenging. I don't know if he's going to be prepared to hear you, but it's a way to say it.
So I wonder, Nataline, I'd like to get your thoughts. As you do have teams that are on the job site, we had a question just asking about thoughts on hiring female glazers in general, but also if you have any thoughts on how female glazers might feel more empowered on the job sites.
No, we really don't have a lot of applicants that are female, but we do have some. I think the biggest thing that we can do or encourage others is to stay in continue contact with the hiring people. In our case, it's the superintendents just checking in. You know, do you see if there's women that are interested in working at Giroux, and or once they're brought on, to make sure that they have the support and the mentorship as they work their way through to stay on. You know, we're union, so sometimes the jobs finish and we have a change out, and I will actively ask. I was in our San Bernardino office last week, and there were some women, right? And I noticed one was missing. Hey, what's going on, right? Sometimes it's scheduled, but just to make them aware that it's noticed, you know, and give them the support once they're here.
So we had a question coming in. Thank you for that, Natalie. That's terrific. We had a question that came in about NAWIC's recruitment of women, of younger women. And this actually, I'd like to propose that for kind of a company recruitment as well. But let's start with NAWIC. Anne, do you want to offer a response to that?
Sure.
So the full question says, sorry, I just in case you're not seeing it, has NAWIC needed to adjust its member benefits services to appeal to women, say younger than 35, who may not have the personal history of toughing it out when workplaces were less gender inclusive?
Yeah, actually, NAWIC, throughout its history, we were established back in 1955. So we've been around for 60 plus years. We've always had to kind of anticipate and adapt to change. And so the younger generation coming in is like no other. We do have an emerging professionals committee that was recently put together in the last couple of years to kind of be able to help those women. And it's not necessarily an age thing with emerging professionals, because we have been finding that women are having, like I know that there was one member that was a nurse for 20 years, and now she's a welder in construction. So we want to bring them into the industry and so they have that support. Yes, it may not be as, the situations may be different than what they were years ago, but there are still situations. Unfortunately, I wish I could say that there's no more harassment, no more discrimination at all anywhere in the construction industry, but that's just not the case. So NAWIC is that system for support. So as Lali had mentioned in the recording, that, and then I just lost my thought. Lali, what did you say? I don't know, just lost my thought, sorry.
I can jump in and talk about
Thanks.
the younger women, if you'd like, a little bit. That has been a bit of an adjustment for us. And again, Doreen, myself, Anne are a little older than 35. So for us to see the perspective that some of the younger women have when they come to us, it is a bit challenging. But I would say, and it's the same thing in terms of being an employer, for us to both listen to each other and try to understand those perspectives and meet in a place where there is consensus and work from there. It's also respecting that there are differences for the younger women coming in. And so they've been asking for things that didn't occur to us, and so again, they have helped us expand our services and fulfill, pieces within the industry that we didn't realize were deficient or needed help. So it's been a great thing in that sense, because we admire the diversity and we love that, and we love the new and fresh perspectives. So we totally welcome that and look forward to doing more for the industry as a whole, for women particularly.
Diana or Nataline, do you have any thoughts on sort of recruiting or better retaining those younger workers, younger women, of course, but we have a challenge industry-wide with just recruiting that next generation?
Well, when I started Giroux, there was only one person younger than me. Today, we're about 39% millennials. And so we have a lot. So if I can just think back of how that happened, we started with talking about it. We need to get, I think it goes hand in hand with diversity, whether it's different generations, men, women, different backgrounds. And that's a big part of it. And so we started with announcing that we were going to actively look to bring on younger employees. We tried employee referrals. That's been the best source, is employee referrals. And then when they come in, to really make sure you let them know that you're listening to them, that you want to listen to them. You're encouraging them to think outside the box, to bring their ideas. But most importantly is to
follow up on their ideas. There's so many. I mean, they'll bring so many, and you can't respond to everything, but enough to know that their ideas make a difference. We have different committees, and one in particular, we had one of our younger employees bring out the idea of reintroducing education reimbursement program, right? That was a big, and so we could have sat there and say, oh, well, the legal part, how do we do it? Do we put it in the handbook? They don't want to hear that. They want to see that you do something with it. And so on the back end, we were doing all that work, and we just kept checking in saying, yes, let's do it. And we have it. There's been so many great ideas, but I think most important is not just getting them in, but showing that you're listening to them once they are in. Yeah.
Diane, any thoughts from your end?
Yeah, when I first started at Safety First, I was one of the younger people, and now I'm not. So I've definitely seen it grow over the last 14 years. And one of the things that we've always done since I've been here is that we've kept in touch with the local universities and colleges. And it's not unusual for us to have had interns working in the different departments. And it's always interesting to me when we get somebody young in our team, especially for me, because so many technologies just move so quickly, and I'm always not always on top of it. So I always learn from any new person that we bring in. And you're right, like they think differently than we do, and sometimes like I get pushed in that direction, whether I like it or not, because that's where everything is going. And same thing, like it's just the diversity of thought and things that I may not be thinking about just because it's not my experience doesn't necessarily mean that's not right. So I myself have to be more open to those types of things, and it just makes the experience broader for everybody in our organization. So I think like being in touch with the local colleges and universities, their career centers, it's very old school, but I think that's where your talent pool is coming from. So I think that's one way to do it.
I'm really glad you brought that up, Diana, because that actually segues pretty perfectly to two other questions we had that I'll just release to the whole panel for whomever might be interested. So one is, do you have suggestions on encouraging or engaging more females in the technical degrees, so engineering, architects, construction? And then the second was, are there any college or technical school recommendations that stand out as being more positive to women in construction?
Katie, I'll start. Are you talking about people that are already working for you, or those entering fields?
Yeah, I think it could be both. Are you reaching out to the technical schools, technical colleges? Is there anything that our industry, the construction industry, can be doing to, I don't have the stats in front of me, but I think there are a lot of women in school for these engineering and design degrees, but we're not necessarily seeing that here. And I wish I had those stats. If anybody has them, I could put them in the chat quick. Yeah, so thoughts about getting into schools and universities.
Yeah, I think that if I don't know if they're YouTube videos or bringing them in, getting more involved with the universities to show them what they can actually do. What types of jobs would they go into, and what do those jobs look like? I don't think there's enough of that to show, come in and talk to a project manager, see what their day's like, take them to a job site and show them how wonderfully exciting it could be, instead of just books of technical stuff they have to learn. And I'm dealing with this with my son. I have a senior, and he's talking about becoming a fireman, I think. And inside, to me, he is so engineered minded, right? And so that's when it clicked. I said, gosh, I wish, he can come and shadow someone and see what it's like, and then get excited about it, right? Because there's one thing to know you're more math, science driven versus, liberal arts. And but what do you do with that? I think, but I guess that can go with any kind of careers, right? If you see what a day is, or the life of somebody who lives those careers is versus the books, it would make a tremendous impact,
Mm-hmm.
So I guess we can do it locally with our own universities, or open our doors to bring some in and shadow, or maybe work with the universities and see if we go there and talk to them about it and have them hear from those in the roles. That would encourage them, and also some way to stay connected. Hey, if you have questions while you're choosing your major, or once you get in, to reach out and and stay in contact with them. I think that's going to be needed overall in our industry in construction, is that there's enough of us willing to make the time to be mentors, to just make ourselves available to take calls and answer, instead of leaving them on their own to decide their own futures. Let them know coming in that they'll be supported, and it starts while they're in school.
What about NAWIC? Is NAWIC doing anything? Yeah.
Well, I was just going to say something that a lot of NAWIC chapters do is they go to career fairs or high schools in the area. And I know locally, when my chapter goes to the career fair, I'll talk to the students and kind of find out what they're interested in, because they really don't think about construction being a viable career. But when you start finding out that, yes, they love math, or they love science, or, construction touches everything. I mean, you can turn that into, a construction career for them. So then I provide them with my card, and I said, if you have questions or would like to, talk further, because those career shows are pretty quick, I give them my card. Whether they're thinking about it or not. I mean, even some of the women, they were interested in like going to beautician school or something like that. I said, you never know what you're capable of doing, like have a conversation. Something that's happened with COVID that has actually is an opportunity opening up is one of the chapters just sent me, they're doing virtual career fairs. So you have that availability to reach out to so many more students virtually. I know that there are also organizations out there. NEPRIS is one of them. It's NEPRIS.com, where you can talk to a whole classroom of students about construction or your career or anything like that. So I think that, again, with what's going on, technology is really going to come to the forefront and allow us to reach many more students.
We also have the NAWIC Education Foundation, which is a sister organization that's a 501c3 that's related to us, that offers a lot of educational opportunities within the construction industry for certifications. But additionally, I saw Shiloh chimed in. It's good to see her virtually, but to talk about block kids. And we also had established a lot of elementary, middle school programs for our chapters to take to their communities to provide education on the construction industry and what we do. And we've done that through Block Kids, design drafting. There are different things that are shown on the NAWIC Education Foundation website that will give you insight into ways that you can draw your community in and younger kids in, or younger folks, to get them interested in the construction industry. They're great programs.
Perfect. So I wish we could keep going, but we are 15 minutes over, so I do want to let you all get back to it. Thank you all so much for joining us today. I want to close out with one quick question that came in, and I'll throw this over to you, Anne. And Andrew, this is not a dumb question. Can men become NAWIC members? And how can they get involved, whether or not they can be full members?
Well, the way that we were established, men cannot become members of NAWIC. We are established for women in the construction industry. Now, that doesn't mean that they can't support us and be honorary members. There are many men and owners of companies that support. They are speakers at our events. There's a lot of ways that men can be involved. It's just not as like an active member, but they can definitely join in other ways. And we'd love, Andrew, if you're interested, I'd love to talk to you. We've got our next annual conference coming up in August of 2021 in Charlotte. So, and that I'll open that up to anybody if they would enjoy coming to a national conference. Hopefully we'll be back in person, but we'd love to see you all. And Katie, Andrew, everybody, thank you so much for having NAWIC here with you. We've really enjoyed the conversations, and we actually look forward to having more collaboration in the future.
Absolutely. Thank you all so much. A message just popped in. I want to make sure. So how can people find out more about NAWIC and how can they get in touch with you? We can close out with that before I end the meeting.
Our national website is www.nawic.org. If you'd like to reach me directly, it's president@nawic.org.
Great. Thank you all so much. Please join us at Glassbell Connect as we round out the final days of our September 4 solutions. Tomorrow we've got a pretty packed schedule with 3 sessions. Beginning at 1 p.m., we have a session called Beyond the Codes, How Smart Glass Fuels the Next Generation of Buildings. At 2:30, we've assembled a panel of experts to discuss glass's technological, decorative, and practical uses. And then at 4 p.m., we have a roundtable discussion with folks who work down the Denver Art Museum Welcome Center. It's going to be a pretty fascinating case study. And there's some links at the bottom of the chat now that can take you back there. So thank you all so much. Have a terrific rest of your day.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
It's nice meeting you guys.